You've tuned into the Bellingham podcast for the week of June 6, 2021. This is episode 191. Heading up I-5 and from that city by the Salish Sea, I am AJ Barcay.
And firmly entrenched in 98226, I am Chris Powell. On this episode, AJ and I are going to start a bit of a mini-series. Now that we've seen a re-emergence of people getting out and about, we want to say welcome back to Bellingham. This is a mini-series coming up. This is part one, where we can get outside finally. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a Bellingham podcast.
Well, Chris, I'm having a slight feeling of deja vu. How you doing?
All over again. Yes, AJ, I love technology, especially when it fails on us. But an episode so nice, we're doing it twice.
Right.
All right, I'm doing fine.
And I'm liking the show topic for today. This is Captain Get Out approved. We're getting out.
When I came back from my time in Montana with my beautiful wife, the thought had occurred to me, we spent 6 weeks, 1 week at a time in 6 different cities in an AirBNB, each city. And the thought had occurred, we do trying to find out places to go, things to do in a new city that we've never been in. That led me think, for those who may be checking out a website that rhymes with kelp, to try to find a place to go, something to do, et cetera, a bite to eat. We've been here a while. We're a bit of a self-proclaimed authority on things to do around Bellingham. Let's talk about it. So, you're in town on business. Well, you, our dear listener, let's say you're in town on business, or you're attending a conference here in Bellingham or Whatcom County, or you've heard lots about this beautiful city by the Salish Sea. You checked into your Airbnb or your hotel room and then unpacked your bags. Now what? And that's where we take off from here.
Exactly. So we have to set some ground, the lay of the land of Bellingham,
yes.
Right?
For those of you who have never been to Bellingham, Bellingham is bisected or divided in half, if you will, the mountains and the water by Interstate 5 in the United States transportation system. And we are exits 250 to 258 in Washington State. All that we are going to talk about, all that you can do in Bellingham can be accessed by these interstates. And the traffic, most cities can be crippled by traffic on the highway. Not so much in Bellingham, unless you got a stalled vehicle or a collision or something like that. Then you got a bunch of mile backup.
Yeah.
So check your Maps app for any red on the highways for that. But anyway, yeah.
So off of the I-5 exits, we've got from south to north, Old Fairhaven Parkway.
Yep.
The Samish Way, Lakeway, James Street, Sunset Drive, Meridian Street, which is also the guide Meridian. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah. Northwest Avenue, and Rue to Bakerview, the Bakerview Drive.
These are the main arterials, if you will, once you get off an exit. These are ways to get to the locations, the big roads to get around Bellingham. That being said, we want to be able to offer some ideas for you to get outside. And the first one, we got about 7 or 8 of them, is to take a walk. And now in this area, we have a lot of outdoor trails, hiking joints, et cetera, et cetera. We got some sidewalks too. And what we do here, if you're new to the show, is we do a little bit of TikTok, not the app that the kids are using nowadays.
Nah.
No, I'll be a tick, and then I'll give a recommendation, and then I'll talk it over to AJ, if you will. Mine is, to take a walk. My best recommendation for people first visiting Bellingham is to take the Taylor Dock walk to Boulevard Park. Now, what the heck is that? We've got links in our show notes, and for the love of hawk and animal, my favorite tag team ever, the Road Warriors,
Drink.
This will give you a Google Map link to the location for where you can park. It's right by a beautiful hotel called the Chrysalis, overlooking the bay. Now, you find a parking spot, and good luck in the summertime, because that's where a whole lot of people park because they don't like walking a lot. But we're going to take a walk, so we're going to find a place to park. It's a bit of a decline, so keep that in mind if you are using an assistive piece of gear going downhill. Yeah. Once you do that, you're pretty much walking on water.
Literally.
And it'll take you, about a half mile or so. I'm not sure about the total distance. But
I think you're about right. I think it's a half-mile boardwalk.
The feet or meters fade away with the beauty that you're experiencing as you go along the water.
On the water, not along, on the water.
That's right. Headed to Boulevard Park, which is one of the top places that Bellingham, the residents and people go to hang out and enjoy the beautiful Bellingham Bay. Talk.
Along those lines, and this is kind of to pre-funk a later topic we've got, if you can't find parking, you might want to park over in Fairhaven, and you can walk to what Chris just said, because we have this interurban trail system.
Yes.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yes. Over in Fairhaven, just look for Village Books in the Fairhaven Green. You'll see a little bit of a walkway leading out to the water.
Yep.
And that'll take you to Taylor Dock, and you're on your way.
So another place that you might want to get your just lazy walk-in, maybe you got a Sunday morning type of a thing, is the Big Rock Garden. Now,
That's
Big
right.
Rock Garden is on top of what's commonly referred to as the Alabama Hill. So Alabama Street, there's a really big hill. You can't miss it. At the top of the hill, we have our Lake Whatcom, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But off of, I think it's Sylvan Street, is Big Rock Garden. And when you go up there, it's a county park, so there's no parking passes required or anything like that. But it's an outdoor art exhibit and gallery. So think about like a museum, but outside.
But many beautiful sculptures. It's quiet. You'll hear the thoughts in your head. You'll hear the chirps of the birds, twerping and chirping.
Yep.
And just to be alone with your thoughts or with other people that you want to go with. Say you're visiting family. This is a great place to go. And if you've lived in Bellingham for a while and you've never been there, here's something for your checklist of things to see when you've got a couple hours to kill.
And on top of that, because it is an art show, gallery, museum-esque type of thing, there are rolling exhibits. Last time I was there, meeting up with a neighbor actually, noticed that the bottom wing, as it were, of the art gallery had been expanded, and now there's some new sculptures down there. So again, if you have been there and it hasn't been for a while, you might want to check back and see some of the new pieces that are produced by local Bellingham, Pacific Northwest, etc. artists. So
Absolutely.
that's mine. So to get a little bit more aggressive with our walking, something that's near and dear to my heart, doing a little bit of more trekking style, let's go for a hike,
Yes,
Chris.
we're going to go for a hike. So if you've tuned into other episodes, maybe a couple summers ago, we did a mini-series called the Urban Hikers Grand Tour. And if you know our personalities, our knucklehead personalities by now, I am a power guy. I'm 6'3", about an eighth of a ton, and AJ is very lithe and svelte, and he is a hiker, a mountain goat.
Mountain goatin'.
That's right. He wears it with pride. There is for an extended walk, an extended stroll, and you want to maybe go with your family or some of our heralded elders, relatives and friends and such. There's a place in Bellingham called the Stimson Family Nature Reserve, and this is a wonderful little flat-ish path that you can forest bathe. You're surrounded by trees, all of the wilderness that we have here in Bellingham and Whatcom County. Beautiful walk. And just to avoid the concrete jungle experience, you'll get plenty of time for that later on in future episode recommendations we're making. But the Stimson Family Nature Reserve is your hookup when it comes to an extended walk, get some steps in, and enjoy some wilderness talk.
So working off of that, let's go in a little bit more intensity from just a laissez-faire type of walk.
Very intense in some aspects.
Well, there is a rite of passage, if I could call it that. There is the one hike that pretty much anybody who either passes through town, lives in this town, does a stopover in this town. If you like a hike and you want to know the quintessential Bellingham hike experience, you're going to climb the Oyster Dome.
It's a Bellingham legend, stuff of lore, and that whole rite of passage, things like that. Some people in this area haven't hiked the Oyster Dome because what's it like?
Soon, Chris.
Yeah, I know,
Soon.
I know.
So the Oyster Dome, to kind of rewind a little bit. So coming up to our fair city, you might take I-5, or if you're taking the scenic way to come up here, there is the scenic byway known as Chuckanut Drive. Now, Chuckanut Drive basically is, I'm going to call it the old I-5. Like it predates I-5.
Yes, it's the old highway leading up to Bellingham before they plowed the interstate through Washington State.
So it's a gorgeous drive and such, but you're abutting the mountains that are by the sea. And so if you wanted to get to the Oyster Dome, it is part of that mountain that you see, not to the left because you see the Salish Sea, but to the right that is all of the rockery. So there's two entrances that you can get into the Oyster Dome. You can park across from, near, I should say, Larrabee State Park. which is our state park closest to Bellingham. Or here's a nice trick. If you don't like to do switchbacks, or if you're not as aggressive as a hiker and you want to kind of save some energy, or if you have kiddos, more on that from me later, there's also the Samish Overlook access. And what that does is it puts you in above all the switchbacks, so it's a lot easier grade to get in. You still have a bit of a hike once you get going, but it cuts out a lot of switchbacks.
Something to think about if you are an outdoorsy person. Go ahead and pack your water bottle, pack a little bit of a snack along the way. It's the view is stuff of legend around here. As we're continuing, I'm going to divert a little bit. Let's take a listen as we're getting outside. We probably want to be tuning our AM/FM portable radios, battery powered back in the day, to 102.3 FM KMRE.
They are our local Bellingham community radio station, and they could also be streaming us at kmre.org.
They are cool enough, and with their best interest, they should be broadcasting our episodes Saturdays at 3 p.m. So if you're tuning in the Pacific time zone, 3 p.m., wherever you're at in this world, hi Dan in the UK, you can listen to our show live on the radio broadcast. Moving on, after all this hike, you'll probably be expending some energy, and you may want to cool off a little bit. Let's go take a dip, AJ.
Oh, yes. So we are typically a cooler climb. So when you come up to the Pacific Northwest in general, pack layers, okay? Just because you see on whatever weather app you see, it's going to be 90 degrees. It'll probably be 90 degrees for about 5 minutes, and then it could downpour.
It could.
So take that in mind. But for the plethora of days that we do get in the summer that are hot, there's 2 lakes that Chris and I are going to showcase that are within walking, biking, or driving distance of our city. Mine is going to be Lake Whatcom, which is what I mentioned at the top of Alabama Hill, and there's the Blodell Donovan Park. Now, the reason why I've showcased this one is because it is fun for the whole family.
Yes.
Like, it has a shallows part of the lake where you can literally walk out for yards before it is even close to waist deep. And in the peak of summer, it is bathtub warm in the shallows. So if you have a little one that is trying to learn how to swim or dive or just goof around and wants to see what they can put their face with their cute little mask in the water, this is the place that you want to go as a family. You can throw out a blanket, you can picnic, you can volleyball. There's also a really good playground set for the kiddos. If you've got a boat or kayak, you can set off from the docks. It is your one-stop shop of getting out and staying by water.
And by the way, Blodell Donovan is really nearby the Big Rock Garden.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to combine activities to get outside. That being said, Lake Padden in South Bellingham, if you will, it's about there are walking trails and a path about it borders the lake, so you can walk entirely around Lake Padden and get a pretty good workout. There are some elevations, not too severe, but a couple miles, I'd say. With Lake Padden, there is bathtub temperatures in the summertime. If you're here around the first of the year, there will be the polar bear plunge that a lot of brave souls will head into the water to start off the new calendar year. There is an off-leash dog park and softball fields and tennis courts and a golf course. I think there's some Padden stuff over there. AJ just raised his eyebrow at me. We're not golfers, but there's
a lot of golfing in our town. I mean, that is a draw for our town in general. But we're not golfers, nor do we play one on podcasts.
And for kayaking or other types of. I don't know if they do the vroom vrooms on Lake Padden.
No, it's definitely pedal or self propelled power. Even on the lake, I think you have to be under paddle or under sail. A lot of good fishing, etc.
Anyway, so a couple places for you to take a dip or walk your dog.
Which leads into, Chris, we should just take a breath.
I'm human. Let's take a breath, because in this area we have a whole lot of, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Let's just enjoy the moment. AJ, you go first and take this one.
Okay, so when I talk about Lake Whatcom here in Bellingham, there's kind of 2 halves that people usually go towards. There's Blodell Donovan, which is the family side that I mentioned before, but also if you head towards like Mount Baker area and such, there is a way that you can come down to what's called the Fork. There's actually a cool restaurant there as well.
Absolutely.
But there is the Lake Whatcom Park. And what's great about it is that you can go there and you can take a hike and stuff. But for taking a breath, what I want you to do, dear listener, is park at the lower lot, walk a very short jaunt of maybe maybe a 16th of a mile. Like it is not that far. And you're going to be right on the lake. And I mean toes dipping in the water lake with logs that are up on a sandy-ish beach. And just park your rumpus.
Is that the clinical term, doctor?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Park your rumpus right there on the logs that are there. There won't be a lot of people, not anywhere near as close to the populace that goes to Blodell Donovan, and just take a breath. What you'll see in front of you is our lake with a fjord-esque view of the Pacific Northwest. There's a little island out there, and there's the peninsulas of like Sudden Valley and such. And you can identify other places around our region, but it is probably one of my favorite places to just park my rumpus, drink my coffee, and let my kiddo play in the water.
There you go. Sounds good. I've noticed a trend here. If you're a longtime resident of Bellingham or you know these areas, AJ is going for the higher elevations of places. Big Rock Garden, top of Alabama Hill. Blodell Donovan, Lake Whatcom Park, top, higher elevation. I've gone for Stimson, which is kind of lower. Taylor Dock, which is right on the water, lower elevations. My place to take a breath is another lower elevation, right on the water. See, we talked about Boulevard Park, which is a huge attraction for people to enjoy the city park. There's another one on the other side of the bay. It's called Zuwanich Park, and this is Uanich. And this has been a secret weapon of mine for so many years, just because the masses go to Boulevard Park. The introverts and cool people like me go to Zuwanich Park. But I've seen that more and more people have enjoyed, or there's a lot more cool people in Bellingham. So what you're going to do is you're going to go towards the water, and we got the link for how to get there. But pack a blanket. Pack a snack or a drink if you wish, and you're going to be able to have some wonderfully maintained grassy knolls to be able to look out at the bay, look out at the water, and you can take a nice stroll. And oh, by the way, you're right on the harbor with a whole lot of beautiful boats coming in and out of their slips.
Yeah.
It's my place, my happy place to go when I want to exhale for a little while and just think. And like AJ said, you park your rumpus down on a blanket in this case, bring a journal, bring a pen, bring something, bring some time to meditate. You won't be distracted in many cases with a whole lot of stuff. There's a great place for kite flying as well, because it does get windy. And as AJ mentioned, where the weather variances can be, wearing layers, sometimes if it's not in the upper 80s and 90s, you may want to bring a little bit of a soft shell or another overcoat type thing to just block the wind.
Yeah.
Windbreakers, that's a good one.
Yeah.
We could do that too.
But no, the Bellingham Bay definitely produces its own weather and stuff. And so you will get a good breeze, and it could be absolutely gorgeous. And once you go out to Zuwanich Point, because it is a point, you will get hit by wind, and it can definitely keep you a little bit chilly. But for the littles, if you want a place to fly a kite, let's go fly Mary Poppins style.
There you go.
That's the place to go.
And they also have a little bit of a playground thing as well for the kiddos to jump around on. Let's all, not sure how things are post-COVID.
Yep. It's open. It's right in front of the boathouse.
Well, there you go. Yep. One more reason to go.
Yep. So let's flip away from the water for a little bit, and let's talk about pedal power.
Yes, get on your bike, y'all.
So in our neck of the woods, basically from Bellingham all the way up to when the border was open, Squamish. This is basically mountain bike mecca.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about Squamish? Because sometimes I feel a little squeamish, and I want to talk about the difference.
Squamish is right. It's north of Vancouver, Canada, and basically you've got there's Little Chief Mountain up there. I can't think of the area. Sea to Sky Mountain is up there, Grouse Mountain, etc. But Squamish itself is a destination for a lot of mountain bikers, and our fair city is usually the stop off point before that, because we have Mount Galbraith, we have Lookout Mountain, etc. But if you are not as young and as virile as I used to be on my mountain bike, I feel you. So maybe you but you still want to have fun with the pumping on the tracks and stuff, and the bumps so we have pump tracks in our town.
Yes,
and it's a great thing for youths. It's a great thing for just anybody who loves the thrill of mountain biking, but you don't want to risk life and limb, jumping off of roots and berms and
no
stuff.
broken collarbones or endos here at the Bellingham podcast. We do not recommend nor condone that.
No, we can't endorse that. So with our pump tracks, there are three big ones. There's Whatcom Falls, which is also up in the same neck of the woods that Chris and I were talking about by like the
higher elevation.
Yeah, Blodell Donovan and such. There's Waypoint Park, which is down by where Chris was talking about, close to Zwanich and such.
If you've done some research or you've been here a while, it is the old Georgia Pacific paper mill plant area down right on the bay, and in a lower elevation. And then there's a new one that just came online,
which is Cordata Park, which is up north of Bellingham off of the Guide. And Cordata Park, the difference between it and the other two is that its pump track is concrete and asphalt. So if you ask my little, who is 5, he does not prefer that one, because if you bail on that one, you're definitely have a pretty gnarly skinned knee and stuff. Whereas Whatcom Falls and Waypoint Park, they are dirt tracks. The family favorite is always Whatcom Falls' pump track. It's smaller, it's dirt. It's just a fun one to do for all ages. My kiddo will even do the little and big kids pump track. But Waypoint Park is a long pump track. It is the length of the old Georgia Pacific site. So that's if you wanted to get the thrills of when you were a teenager on a mountain bike, but without risking as much of life and limb, check out our pump tracks. Tick.
I thought it was talk.
Oh, talk.
There you go. So, if you want to actually get some distance in your bike and see some beautiful areas, I made mention how Interstate 5 bisects Bellingham. Well, in the other way, kind of making a cross, a quasi cross, there is an interurban trail that AJ mentioned earlier in the show. This is a walking, biking. It's a community trail that spans miles, that goes from one part of Bellingham and the city to the other side, and dumps out in the South Fairhaven area. In a lot of cases, you can get on your bike, enjoy some residential homes and neighborhoods and things that are bordering it. This is a great place, and mind the pedestrians along the route. Ring that bell if you are on your bike, or at least don't go for any land speed records, but it is a great location to be able to get on somewhere in town. And oh, by the way, you can end up in another neighborhood district in town that has a whole lot of places to go to grab a bite to eat or a drink or drank, depending on where you end up. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure with a whole lot of opportunities awaiting you if you want to get some distance in. Once you have that distance in, though, we need to be able to maybe take a rest. And oftentimes here in Bellingham, especially in the warmer season, there's there's a new thing. There's a new thing out there that the kids are doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's called hammocking.
Yes, Chris, there's a thing called hammocking.
Anyway, and so what I've learned about this is you find 2 trees, and you hook up a hammock to these 2 trees, and you get inside the hammock, and then you kind of fall asleep.
Wow, Chris.
So let me do the tick on this one. There are a couple places in town, all over places.
There's trees in town.
We have trees in town. This just in. There's a wonderful park in Bellingham. We mentioned Boulevard and Blodell Donovan and Zwanich in town. This one's not around any body of water per se. It's kind of off the Guide Meridian. This one is Cornwall Park, and it is it's deceptively expansive about how big this is. Don't be fooled by just the main entrance. There's a lot to it. Get your hammock, get some trees, enjoy the silence, hi Depeche Mode, and be able to take some time in a wooded area. Talk.
So for me, I'm I'm surprised you know of this new fangled technology as the hammock.
I just got out of the park a couple weeks ago there.
So when I hammock, so I do hammock. That shows the decade difference between us.
He's steady. No insulting the co-host there.
I didn't.
All right, watch your P's and Q's.
When it comes to hammocking, I love the Lakeway State Park, and I mentioned it's off of the other way that you can come up to our town, which is off of the Chuckanut. And Lakeway State Park, it has the railroad actually going straight through the park. And so, like, if you have a little and they like trains, it is the place to be if you want to be up close to a train. safely. But the reason why I mentioned that is because the interurban trail that you mentioned used to be the old railroad system. So that's the reason why it kind of cuts through our town. And fun fact for those that are visiting, you will actually see some of the old railroad trestles still on parts of our town, especially on the interurban.
One thing we want to keep in mind for our new listeners that maybe want to, this is a great guide to be able to do a whole lot of things in Bellingham. Cornwall Park, Boulevard Park, Zuwanish Park, Blodell Donovan do not require an entry fee to get in. However, Larrabee is one of the state parks.
So you need the Discovery Pass.
Okay, and the Discovery Pass, look it up on the web. we didn't have a link in the show notes for that one, but we do want to support our state parks and our national parks, and so there will be a fee assigned to that. Just keep that in mind.
But back to Larrabee State Park, a little digression because of the historical relevance of it.
Dude, this is a historical park.
Larrabee State Park is my favorite place to go snooze because you're right on the water, you're right on the Salish Sea, and it's a little bit of a trek down, a very light elevation and grade. But my son loves it because he gets to hear and watch the trains and stuff. And there are places where you can literally hang between the two trees close to a bluff. There's an infamous picture of my son hanging in a hammock. It looks like he's just dangling over the side of a cliff. It's not the case.
No trick photography here.
All trick photography here, but no, but it's one of those things where you can literally just hammock there, swing back and forth, feel the breeze come off the Salish Sea, and watch the sunset if you wanted.
Yep.
And the only nuisance or coolness, depending on how you see it, is the train. So you have to watch out for that because it can break the silence.
And finally, I think in this mini-series that AJ and I are concocting, we want to do a secret weapon or something that is of our own personal personalities. And I'm going to actually go upper elevation on this one.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, so the last thing, to be able to take a gander at the beauty. Now, we've already talked about a whole lot of places, but there's just a place, there's a happy place that I have, and there it's a road. It's a spot on a road, and you'll see it when you see it, folks, but it's Chandler Parkway. Chandler, oh my God. Yeah, so got a link to how you can get there. It's going up Barkley Hill or other ways to get there, but there's a specific spot on Chandler Parkway. There's sidewalks going on either side, and there's a beautiful, breathtaking, because there's a lot of breathtaking views in Bellingham, view of the city and the bay all at the same time. And there is no parking lot per se for this spot. You'll know it when you see it, folks. It's right there. You go to some of the residential roads, and by the way, there's some pretty swanky homes along Chandler Parkway.
Very nice.
They will have guest parking slots available. Go park and walk down a little bit to it. Take a breath, take a gander, take a snooze. I don't know if they got the
No, they can't do that.
But at least take a pause to enjoy it. Chandler Parkway is your huckleberry for that kind of beautiful view.
And there's also, when you're on Chandler, there's actually a little dedicated spot that's owned by a homeowner where there's a tree and a story about a little yellow bucket and a rock. And that's typically where most people love to watch the sun go down across our city.
It's that little known Bellingham cultural kind of stuff.
Yep.
And you might also notice a hooded, shrouded figure and walking a dog, or maybe along with a beautiful, tall, statuesque woman. That's me and my wife and our dog.
On the regular. You guys do that pretty much every day.
Well, we walk our dog every day, but sometimes we'll do Chandler Parkway to be able to enjoy the beautiful view along that time while our dog does her business.
So for me, I'm going to talk about just a pick that I talked about a few episodes back. It's called Locust Beach. Now, Locust Beach is kind of the new age Zuwanish point because it's far enough north off of Meridian Drive that you don't get a lot of people out there. So if you're an introvert, this is kind of the new introvert's beach. The cool thing about it is, as I mentioned in a previous episode, there's also an old shipwreck. The Osprey is run aground there, and unfortunately it's been graffitied and tagged and stuff, but there's a little bit of an adventure-esque walk on the beach right there. It's like a half mile to the wreckage and back and stuff. But what's nice is that it's you get away from people that way so that you can hit on taking a breath and such. It's right on the Salish Sea, so you can watch the sun go down and stuff. And you get a different perspective because you actually are looking back against our city. So you actually can see Bellingham in all of its loveliness by the Salish Sea from that spot on Locust.
That shipwreck could be something for those Goonies fans out there.
Oh, yeah.
One-Eyed Willie might be there if you happen to
Maybe.
make your way to go exploring. I'm not sure if it's able to be explored, but it's at least a nice view to have a heart full of wonder about that movie from the 80s. Sean Astin. He's the goods. My beautiful daughter has enjoyed Locust Beach as of late with skimboarding.
Oh, nice.
And skimboarding, is kind of like a third of a surfboard of dimensions and such. And I guess from what I've seen, the kids do, you run, you throw the skimboard down, you jump on it, you pounce on it, and then you go 6 or 7 feet or more, skimming along the water and the sand and things like that.
Fun.
And so she enjoys that. Unfortunately, it may not be for all to be able to, get there. Parking can be a little bit dicey at times.
It is a small parking lot. Yeah, I will give you that.
But you keep that in mind. And, sometimes you might need to park at a distance in a lot of ways. All right, this has been fun. This is the first part of many parts coming up about getting back to Bellingham. AJ, let's stick a fork in this show.
That wraps it up for this Truffle Shuffle edition of the Bellingham Podcast. Thank you again so much for listening to us, rating us, reviewing us, wherever you like to get our podcast. Remember, if you are in the Bellingham area and if you're a Goonies fan, you might be listening to us on KMRE 102.3 FM.
KMRE is on KMRE.org, and they never die. KMRE never dies. That was good. But anyway, they play our show Saturdays at 3. Check them out if you can.
And on that note, no, that is not a galleon in the Salish Sea, but I am AJ Barcet.
Sloth love Chris Powell. Thanks once again for joining us on the Bellingham Podcast. How did I get into the Goonies reference for that? It's part of lore. I love that movie.
That's great.